All right, in this video, I wanted to respond to one of your comments about improvising in difficult keys on that video. So just a quick disclaimer, you may have noticed some other videos with this background and this environment. I'm currently traveling. I'm at the Midwest Band and Orchestra Conference in Chicago, Illinois. And so any video that you see with this background and this environment, I'm recording on the same day, but I'm just publishing weeks apart like I normally do. So with that, we can start here. So we've got Alex Chandler NV5TQ who comments, I'm fairly new to jazz and playing piano. When you said that they might call out to play anthropology in B, would you be expected to know how to play anthropology? I understand you're improving. I think he may have meant improvising, but just the chords and basic melody at every jazz gig. If so, how many songs are there like that you would be expected to know? And if not, are you just told what songs are to be expected? And he says, great video. So Alex Chandler, I'm glad you liked that video. I'm glad you're getting into jazz, and I hope that's going well for you. So I wanted to sort of break this down. I have no plan for this video. I have no script. I have no plan of what I'm going to talk about here. It can go in any number of directions, but let's start with this comment. When you said that they might call it to play anthropology in B, are you expected to know how to play it? Yes. Whether you know the tune or not, you are expected to know or to play the tune. Yes, that's exactly right. Just the chords and basic melody. If that's what you're comfortable with, absolutely, yes. If that is what you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable playing super advanced harmonies and embellishments and whatever, do that. But if nothing else, just root notes or melody or chords. At every jazz gig, anthropology is a commonly called a tune, probably not at every jazz gig. If you're talking about playing in weird keys at every jazz gig, that is actually something that I want to talk about later. But no, that does not happen, but I do want to talk about that. Okay, if so, how many songs are there like that you'd be expected to know? Alex Chandler, there are thousands of jazz standards. I would suggest to everybody to look up a list of the most commonly played jazz standards so that you can learn those tunes. And if not, are you just told what songs are to be expected? Sometimes you are and sometimes you aren't. So it really depends. Okay, so that comment, really great comment, and thanks so much for posting that, because that has really got me thinking about so many different things. There are so many different things to talk about here. So I don't even know where to start, honestly. I'm trying to think out loud about where to start with this. So trying to play, anthropology, having like I said, a list of the most commonly played jazz standards is a really good idea to look at that. So, are you expected to, is playing in weird keys something that happens at every gig? No. In my experience, it's quite rare for it to happen, but when it does happen, it is, it really happens. And so it's really good to be prepared for anything. Now, some commentary. I think this is probably as far as I'll go with that comment in terms of exactly responding to it. But some additional stuff. So I really notice, and I'm not trying to pick here. That is not my goal. But I notice a lot of young people around my age, college age students, sometimes older, just they don't want to play in weird keys. Probably because they're uncomfortable doing that. And I've been in a lot of situations where either I've called a tune in a weird key or somebody else has called a tune in a weird key, and somebody else will say, no, can we do it in the original key? And I always say yes in that moment because I want to support them. But in my mind, I'm honestly just kind of annoyed because I'm like, come on. Why can't you just play the tune in the weird key? I mean, why, why can't you just do that? And I get it. It's an uncomfortable moment and all of that stuff, but just do it. And I think that's my attitude with a lot of things. I tend, and this is a personal problem, I just tend to get frustrated when people try to control things too much, especially, on a gig. If they try to control things too much in other environments, like whatever other thing, that in a recording session or something, that I'm fine with that. That's fine. But on a gig or a jam session or something, it just frustrates me why people are trying to control things too much. Come on, play the tune in the weird key. Let somebody do what they want to do. That's the point. The point of this is for you to have an uncomfortable moment. And so I really think that's part of it. That's the uncomfortable part. And so, yeah, anyway, a lot of young people, again, I'm really not trying to pick here, but that's just what I've experienced in the past. People my age, especially, just are really uncomfortable playing in weird keys or uncomfortable deviating from anything else. Of course, I've played with some who are really, really comfortable and they love to do it, but that's pretty rare. So I would say, for you watching this video, if you are one of those people who is uncomfortable on a gig playing in a weird key, play in the weird key. I mean, I know I've said that like 10 times already, but just play in the weird key. Just do it. Come on. It's a good experience. It's a good experience, and you never know until you do it. So that's really, really, really good to know. I really think that people who don't know the tune should say that they don't know the tune. I'm just trying to look at this comment more. People who don't know the tune, speak up. And if you're uncomfortable playing that tune, say, can we do something else? I don't do that a lot because I would never say I'm comfortable with anything, but I have been playing professionally for 10 years and I'm comfortable with most stuff. And I'm also open-minded. So I think, for me personally, I don't have a problem with that. But if there's a tune that I'm like, I really don't want to do it, then I will say, can we do something else? That's always okay to do that. If you're uncomfortable doing that. But again, it's one of those things, just do it. Just enjoy the moment. Things like that. So, how many songs are there? There are a lot of jazz standards, and I would say the more jazz standards you memorize, the better. I played just the day before I left to fly out to Chicago. I had a little restaurant gig in a little cafe. It was, just something that I had set up because I wanted, I just wanted a solo gig, and I hadn't done a solo gig in a long time, and I wanted to do that. And so I set up this solo gig and whatever, and I did it. And I did not even bring a music stand. I just brought my keyboard and my amp, my speaker, because I was like, I'm just going to figure this out. I'm not going to use any music. This is just me playing. I don't care. And I got through the whole gig without any music. How did I do that? Because I know a lot of tunes, and I was able to sort of conflate some tunes, sort of mix some tunes together, which is always kind of fun, and something that I always tend to do on solo gigs by accident. Anyway, just sort of like, oh, let's play one tune, and then I always mix it up with another one, and it's always kind of fun. So I did a lot of that. I played because I noticed, as some people were kind of walking in, it was kind of quiet for the first part of it. So I started with a really slow, kind of like blues, like a rock and roll kind of thing, really, really slow. And I just started. I did that for like half an hour. I took that through a couple of different keys, and I just tried to make it interesting. I don't know if I was successful, but I tried to make it as interesting as I could. I just did that for half an hour. I just played the blues for half an hour, super slow, and then I looked out at what how many other people were there, and if the moment called for it, I would play something else. So Yeah, I really think the most tunes you know, the better. That's so important. Really, really important. Um, and so I think that through this, I I just think that you have to have an open mind. I know I've talked about that in a couple of other videos, and you have to be comfortable with any outcome, and you have to accept failure if you are one of those people who is super scared of doing a tune in a weird key or doing a tune that you're unfamiliar with, then you just have to accept the failure. I play in a house band for a jam session whenever I'm home for the break um, at a brewery. And this jam session has been going for a few years, ever since COVID kind of settled down. And so uh, probably 50-60% of the time, there is a horn player who will regularly bring in like works in progress tunes, like tunes that he hasn't finished or wants to, get put in on a great testing ground by playing it in the house band. And so that's another situation that you may be in. And I love those kinds of gigs. Um, I really, really love those kinds of gigs because it means that I can help somebody know whether they're, what improvements they need to make to their composition, and I can play new stuff. And I'm always open to playing new stuff. Always open to playing new stuff. I get a little bit sick of playing all the old stuff every single week. That does get a little bit tiring after a while, to be honest. So I always enjoy it when people bring in tunes. I was playing a gig up in college. Um, I had a bass player and a drummer, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna bring in tunes, works in progress, and like some lesser known charts, that were off, obscure albums and stuff like that. And so I transcribed. I found all these transcriptions that I had done years and years ago of these. Dave McKenna, excellent pianist, one of my biggest inspirations for solo piano, and he did these sets in Chicago. Funny I say that as I'm in Chicago right now, but he did these live sets in Chicago in the '90s, and he'd play these really weird, obscure tunes that nobody's ever heard of, or that people have forgotten about over the years because they've just been lost to time, and so I'm like, I'm gonna transcribe all these. And years ago, I transcribed a lot of Dave McKenna tunes, just wrote lead sheets out of them. Uh, and so on this gig, I brought the bass player and the drummer copies of, I think there were like 10 different tunes, because we had like an hour and a half, and we played these tunes, and they actually loved it so much that they didn't want to do anything else, which I think sort of echoes my sentiment about, you know what, playing the same old stuff over and over is fine, but it does get a little bit boring. I wonder if they felt the same way because they were like, let's keep doing these charts. And so yeah, I gave them a lot of tunes, and I did that on a couple of other gigs up there, because they liked that, and I was like, let's do that again, and they love those tunes. Yep, that's another situation you can be in, that I always find is a really fun situation to be in. But that, yeah, just another situation. And so, is that something that you're expected to do? Well, yeah. If you're the leader, pass out those charts, or if you're, someone in the band, then you just play all those charts and have fun with it. I really don't think it's much more complicated than that. It's really just, are you willing to do it? I mean, that's really what all of this comes down to. Are you willing to do it? And I hope you are willing to do it, because that will get you more work. If you are narrow minded, you will not have as much work. I will say that. Yep. If you want work, be open minded. Play all the different tunes, even those that you're uncomfortable with, even in keys that you're uncomfortable with, is just. I just can't stress enough how important that skill is. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I can't think of any other. I mean, again, I didn't plan this video at all. I just read that comment. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to make a video. And so that is exactly what I'm doing here. But I think I've run out of things to talk about regarding that. I'm sure I'll think of other things and put, clarifications in the comments, or even if it's substantial enough, make another video. But that is exactly what I want to talk about here. Just playing a different keys, talking about that comment, talking about all the implications of that comment. So thank you, Alex Chandler, for posting that comment on that video, because that has prompted all of this other stuff. So anyway, that does it for this video, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was valuable for you. I hope it helped you, and I will see you in the next one.